So one understanding that we have to always remind ourselves with is the fact that when we wake up, it doesn't mean everybody else is up. If we say we are coming up as a nation, then we really need to come up as a nation. We can't think of ourselves that we are up, we are out of this place, and we leave our brothers and sisters behind. When I'm saying that, I'm not necessarily saying that go to the street, go and evangelize. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when they ask you the truth, it is your right to tell them and teach them the truth. If they are humble enough to listen, that is great. If they are not humble, at least you've done your best of teaching what you know. So it's you and I, our responsibility to ensure that we study and we learn and we tell and we teach. That is why I keep coming back here to the New Testament and the scriptures. I don't think I would ever move away from it because we still have our brothers and sisters stuck in those lies. And hence why I'm tackling this subject of the book of Revelation. To me, it's one of the easiest subjects to tackle, but a bit complicated. It's easy because it's not real. The book of Revelation, the Creator has never given any revelation to anybody pertaining to any end. It's all made up. And here is why. Aquaba, I'm excited. I miss you guys. Listen, I truly did miss you. I'm sorry I couldn't make it yesterday. Honestly, I felt a little tired, and I come your way every single day, and not just on YouTube, but I'm on the community. I'm on the prayer page every day. I'm on the community every Sunday, hours of studies and teachings. And I figured that at least I need a day, at least a night for myself, because literally I don't have a night for myself. So I decided to take Mondays off, and I work the rest of the day. So Mondays are the day that I was born, So I'm going to take the Mondays off, and I'm going to continue from Tuesday to Sunday, and Mondays become my off days. So lately, I'm not really going to post any videos on Mondays. So when you see me on Monday, it means it's an emergency that I have to handle it. And today, I want to talk about the book of Revelation. And talking about it, I know this is the bedrock of Christianity, in the sense that Jesus Christ is the bedrock of Christianity, but this is sort of telling you, if you don't believe in Jesus, this is what is going to happen to you. So the world and what we have around us have believed in Revelations and the 666 and another big lie. And Revelation is a lie anyways. I just want to say it up front before you continue watching this. So I don't want you to watch it and get disappointed at the end of the day. Listen, it's not true. It's false. It's made up. It's lies. And I'm going to show you how they did this, how they put together such books, and you're going to be amazed with some of my findings. And I want to say a big thank you to the powers that be. Yada Oduman Kumasi, our Father, our Creator. Yada Asase Yase, our Mother Earth. Yada Asase Yase. Yada Oduman Kumanamba, his son. Aweche and Weshe Nasi. The sons of the Creator. Esi, Ajo, Abene, Auku, Yao, Efi, Amen. The seven sons of the Creator, which the Bible calls the seven spirits of God. We are grateful and thankful for the seven sons of the Creator, the powers that be. We are also grateful for the elemental beings, what the Bible called the four living creatures, which they got it wrong. It's actually five. The power of the air, the power of the earth, the power of the waters beneath, waters above. You're the one I see. The powers of the fiery dimensions. You're the one I see. And I also want to thank my personal favorite ones. Nana Hofe Ejahima. She is the author of this house, and also Nanam Frama, who is my personal person. So we give thanks to all the powers that be. We ask that they strengthen us going forward and keep protecting and teaching and enlightening and taking us deeper and deeper and deeper. So let's go straight to the book of Revelations. Did you know Revelations wasn't even part of the first two New Testament manuscripts? Listen, I remember what I taught you this when I was addressing the brother that called me out, and I think so the New Testament wasn't part of the first two manuscripts of the Revelations wasn't part of the first two manuscripts of the New Testament, which was put together finally by Bishop Cyrus 350 AD by the Council of Laodicea until 367 AD. Athanasius, that Athanasius of Alexandria added it, so it wasn't added. The first copy of the New Testament didn't have the book of Revelation. It was later added on in AD 637. And please, one of the things about knowledge is that you got to study, you got to search if you want to know. Listen, I'll give you all the facts, and I don't make things up, so I'll give you what it is. But sometimes you want to sit back and study for yourself, so you should read wide, you should study. Some of the subjects that I bring up, you should research into them. Two of the most interesting books of the Bible are the books of Daniel and the book of Revelation. This is because people have used these books in an unusual way in the modern period. These books are both called the Apocalypse in the scholarly fraternity. This was an ancient literature journal in which a prophet, a visionary, or a seer would have a set of visions that are peculiar and odd. So the visionary or the person writing this book, or you call the prophet, would have crazy visions and insane imageries, right? But it was a writing style in those days, in those eras. A visionary or a seer would have a set of visions that are peculiar and odd, full of symbolism, hard to understand, and even the visionary themselves sometimes don't even understand it. In all these apocalypses, there always have to be an angel standing by them, interpreting and explaining the very visions they are having themselves. So without the angels showing up in their vision, there is no way they would have understanding in the very things that they are talking about and the very things that they are saying. So therefore, it's very vital to understand that this was a typical writing style in those eras. I mean, this is just the beginning. Don't worry, just chill. We'll read deep. Let's read. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to compare my studies to the Britannica. Okay, I'm going to compare my studies to the Britannica so that we know that I am not making things up. So to make it sweet, I would read the Britannica first. Then after the Britannica, we can go and read into my studies. We read together. It's like we are reading my notes today. So that you will know that this thing called the final episode or the apocalypse or the end time is all made up. And it's a writing style in the Middle Ages, or was a writing style in the Middle Ages. So let's read into the Britannica. You should know that Britannica is Latin for the English encyclopedia, or the British encyclopedia. It is a general English knowledge. It is a general English knowledge online encyclopedia. It was formerly published by the Encyclopedia Britannica, Inc., and other publishers for previous editions. It was written by about 100 full-time editors, more than 4,000 contributors. Why is the Britannica important? Because all of us speak the English language. So when we are diving into the play or word plays or certain words that are miscued or misconcepted, we have to go into the encyclopedia of the English language to try and understand what the original word really means. So we have the Encyclopedia Judaica, which is the Jews version of the encyclopedia. We have the Encyclopedia Achanica, which is basically the Akan version of. So it basically goes into languages and explain the mannerisms or the culture behind the formation of these languages. That is why we are looking into this, because the word revelation is an English word, right? But the ancient Latin is what we call the apocalypse. Okay, apocalyptic literature. The earliest apocalypse are Jewish works that dates from about 200 BCE to about 165 BCE. So you should know these writings are not more than about 2,400 years old. Yes, these writings are not more than 2,400 years old, basically, because it started in the 2nd century BCE. You understand what I'm saying? And these were Jewish writers. So these things are not something that goes all the way back to the beginning, or anybody from all the way back to the beginning giving them any revelations about any way. Whereas earlier Jewish writers, the prophet, had foretold the coming of disaster, often in esoteric language, they neither placed these disasters in a narrative framework nor conceived of them in eschatology terms. So, inasmuch as these people had these visions and revelations, they could never put it into perspective, exactly tell when these disasters are going to happen, because it was a type of literature. It wasn't anything called a prophetic sight or visions or things about years to come. None of that. And this subject is big because inasmuch as a lot of people claim to have come out of the lies and are preaching and teaching the truth, a lot of people are waiting for a type of a Messiah. Whether it be black, white, green, brown, indigo, I don't care. So long as you are waiting for a type of a judgment coming, end time coming, something coming to condemn certain group of people, you are still living in the fallacy of these writers. You're still living in their mindset. They have projected an imagery to you, and you are still running your life by these imageries instead of you moving away and looking at life for what it is and addressing it head on. Don't let me waste your time. Let's read on. During the time of Hellenistic domination of the Palestine and the revolt of Maccabees, however, a pessimistic view of the present became coupled with expectation of apocalyptic scenario, which is characterized by imminent crisis, a universal judgment, and a supernatural revolution. So the writing style is that they have to identify an imminent crisis, something that is happening at a time, and also give it what? Give it a universal judgment coming to face the crisis that is happening at the same time. And whoever the culprit or the parties are contributing to these crises, there's a universal judgment coming for these perpetrators. And after that, there will be a universal revolution, meaning a Messiah or somebody, Savior, coming from somewhere, and all of a sudden squashing everything that is going on, bringing peace at the end of the day. So this was a writing style. This was nothing spiritual. This was physical. This was man's mind being at work at its best. This was skillful writers, and I repeat, skillful writers putting pen to paper and inscribing things that made it look like, oh boy, see what I just saw in the spirit. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's a crisis, there's a universal judgment, and there's a supernatural revolution. This is the writing style of Apocalypse. There's a crisis, there's a universal judgment coming, and there's a universal revolution, because the people needed that. The most famous and influential of the early Jewish apocalypses is the last part of the biblical book of Daniel, chapters 7 to 12, written about 167 BCE. So the book of Daniel, for your information, is not that old. It was written about 167 BCE and attributed to a revered wise man who supposedly lived some 4 centuries earlier at the time of the Babylonian captivity. Are you getting this? So the book of Daniel is very recent, but the work 167 BC. But the work is attributed to a supposedly wise man called Daniel who lived during the Babylonian era 4 centuries to the time this writer was writing up this book. Daniel recounts a series of visions, the first of which is chapter 7, is the most succinct. He sees a succession of 4 terrible beasts, evidently representing a succession of earthly persecutors, culminating in the contemporary Hellenistic tyrant Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes, which in the book is what? The 11th horn of the 4th beast. So this writer was picking things that was going on, first and foremost history, and explaining or attributing these images that this writer is seeing to what is currently going on in his era, or things that have happened before his era, and writing them in a style that would make you think that these are revelations that is being given to him, and he, the writer, has pitched himself 4 centuries before his present time of writing. Daniel then sees the destruction of the last beast by the Ancient of Days and the coming of one like the Son of Man, to whom is given everlasting dominion that shall not pass away, whose kingdom would be inhabited by the people of the saints who would forever serve and obey him. The other Jewish apocalypses, the first book of Enoch, which is written 200 BCE. So those of you that believe the book of Enoch was written by Enoch all the way back, it's not so. It is an apocalyptic work. The writer wrote the book of Enoch in 200 BCE. That is why when you look at the book of Enoch, it corresponds to the ideas that was going on in the Middle Ages. Okay, let me continue. The 4th book of Ezra, which is written in 200 CE, and the 2nd and the 3rd book of Baruch, also written in 100 CE, are apocryphal insofar as they do not belong to the canonical Hebrew Bible. They are extant in Ethiopic, Syriac, Greek, Latin translations made by Christian rather than in their original Hebrew or Aramaic forms. The reason that the apocalypses survived in this manner seems to be that after the failure of series of Jewish revolt against the Roman Empire about 135 CE, the rabbis who began the process of codifying the Jewish tradition turned away from the apocalypticism to an emphasis on upholding the interpretation of the law. Faithfully, however, Jewish, that simply means, it's clear cut, that simply means that they realized that the apocalypticism didn't work, wasn't working, this is not true. Listen, let's stay away from this and let's focus on the law, let's focus on the Torah. So these rabbis that were codifying concentrated their works on working on the laws. and nothing else. They didn't want to have any business to do with any apocryphas. Most authorities regard early Christianity as fervently apocalyptic religion, intent on imminent second coming of a Christ to preside over the last judgment and the end of the world. Early Christians' apocalypticism is evident in the Gospels, which are permeated with language taken from Daniel, the so-called little apocalypse. A sermon by Jesus found in Matthew 24 to 25 with parallels in Mark 13 and Luke 21 foretells the imminence of the collective tribulation and chastisement before the coming of the Son of Man, who will sit upon the throne of his glory and separate the sheep from the goats. St. Pauline epistles also contain apocalyptic content. The last book of the New Testament, the Revelation to John, also known as the Apocalypse of St. John, the Greek term of St. John, the Greek term apocalypsis literally means revelation. Concluded the canonical Christian scripture in a ringingly apocalyptic key written in Asia Minor about 95 CE by a Christian named John. Mind you, it says what? By a Christian named John. We'll come to that, don't worry. We'll come to my notes and I'll break things down for you. The fact that the author gives his true name is the one major exception of the rule of pseudonymity. The Revelation offers a vibrant, sometimes lurid account of imminent crisis, judgment, and salvation. Evidently obsessed by the persecution of Christians by Roman Empire, which he refers to as Babylon. John recounts a series of visions that foretells a crescendo of persecution and martyrdoms, followed by universal judgment, retribution for the forces of evil, and reward for the faithful. Details are often impenetrable because of esoteric illusions, language, etc. For example, a woman clothed with sun, the moon under his feet, being with child, travailing in bed, which we see in Revelations 12. You understand? So such languages was so euphemious that it didn't even make sense to sometimes the revelator himself, because why don't you just speak in plain languages if you are seeing the revelation? Because if you are that, listen, let me set this rule about revelation. You will never receive a revelation in the spirit that its language in the revelation goes beyond your language, or its mannerism go beyond your mannerism. Whenever the powers that be are giving you a revelation about something, they will always speak to your language, to the simplicity. They will always stick to the simplicity of the time. Meaning, they will never give you something so cumbersome that it will be so impenetrable for you to break them down. It doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? They will simply speak in plain words. And that is the fact. But Revelation, on the other hand, wouldn't want that. So they will give you things like a woman clothed with sun, the moon under his feet. I mean, think about it. How can a woman be clothed with sun with the moon under his feet? How does it even make sense? Let's think. The sun and the moon don't even oftentimes, majority of the time, show up together. One is in the absence of the other. So what is this even talking about? Moreover, the narrative is bewildering because it repeats itself frequently. Nevertheless, the psychedelic imagery is easily etched in the mind, and the mysteries found in the text have proved endlessly fascinating. Nor can there be any doubt of their ultimate message. The world which is already suffering will soon be washed in blood, but the King of Kings will come to tread the winepress of the wrath of God. An everlasting reward will be given to those who have washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. Revelations 14:19. The number of other Christians' apocalypses were written during the period of 100 CE to 400 Common Era, including the apocalypse of Peter. Yes, we have the apocalypse of Peter, including the apocalypse of Paul, the ascension of Isaiah, and the testament of Abraham. Although these works adhere to apocalyptic form in recounting supernatural vision pseudonymously in esoteric language, they refer to an individual's salvation and the lack of characteristic apocalyptic content of treating collective history and collective salvation. The trend towards concentrating on individual salvation was reinforced in theology of the living church fathers. Preeminently St. Augustine, the fathers were eschatological insofar as they believed in the last judgment, but non-apocalyptic in that they insisted that the time of the last act of history was utterly uncertain. So St. Augustine, which was a black person, I bet most people didn't even know that St. Augustine was a black person, but he was the leader of the church fathers at the time, and they believed without a doubt that the end of human history is definitely uncertain. Yet, beliefs inherited from Daniel and the New Testament permitted the survival of the apocalyptic thinking in the Middle Ages and led to the creation of new apocalyptic works such as Revelation of Pseudo, such as the Revelation Pseudo Methodios, middle 7th century, and the vision of Brother John, late 13th century. So the work of Revelation is a compilation of the Pseudo Methodios from the middle 7th century all the way to the vision of Brother John. This, mind you, this is called Brother John or the Saint John. Many medieval authors also wrote synonymous prophecies that did not take the form of narrative visions, but foresaw imminent crisis, judgment, and salvation. Although apocalyptic genre disappeared after the Middle Ages, an apocalyptic mode reinforced by explicit references to the revelation to John appears in numerous modern literature. Example, Catherine Anna Porter's Pale Horse, Pale Rider, 1939. Nathaniel West's Day of the Locust in 1939. The film Ingmar Bergman, The Seventh Seal, 1957. And Federico Fellini's La Dicholic Vita, whatever, in 1959, sorry. Moreover, several Protestant denominations in the United States propounded apocalyptic beliefs, which has been expressed in numerous sermons by pamphlets by such preachers as Billy Graham and Jeffrey Falwell, as well as in a book that was America's bestseller, Hale Lindsey, The Late Great Planet Earth, 1970. The Left Behind series of the novels, the first was published by 1995 by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins, which describes apocalyptic events in particularly violent terms, archaic phenomenal popularity. It is estimated that 40 million copies of books in the Left Behind series were in print by early 12th century, and a computer game based on the series was also produced. So this is the Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, this is the standpoint of the whole apocalyptic view or the subject of Revelation. This is the total evidence of the fact that this is totally man-made, and this is nothing to do with any divine inscription or revelations being given to man for man's dominance or man's awareness of some future that is coming, that is very troubling very troubling and fearsome to anybody that would hear this. So therefore would force everybody to go into the believing system or the believing of a Jesus Christ to save them from this cruel ending that is coming. Hence the enforcing of the ideology of 666 and these end time signs that supposedly is happening all around us. Let's not go far from this. Even a lot of people using the coronavirus, which I gotta be careful now. I'm on YouTube. I just forgot I'm on YouTube. Listen, let's go into my research and what I know without a doubt is fact about Revelations or the apocalyptic works or literature. We need to remember that we don't have such writing styles in our time. It doesn't exist. When our generation read apocalypses, we often misread them as if they are apocalyptic things, as if these apocalyptic things are predicting things in our own future. So we oftentimes read these things to be something that is yet to happen. These are predictions or futuristic prophecies or prophetic terms that is yet to be manifested in our time. Ancient apocalyptic text was not meant to be talking about what is to happen in the future or 2,000 years to come. They were meant to be talking about situations that was going on in their own day. The book of Daniel and the book of Revelations may seem strange to us when we read it, but it is because they are the only two apocalyptic texts that we are familiar with. And hence I mentioned a few when I was reading from the Britannica, and also I'll mention a few here. And don't mind the repetition in my submission, because I need, in as much as this is very simple, I know Revelations is fake. But I have to present it without a doubt to every person that perhaps will come and watch this video later or years to come. I need to make sure I deliver this with such accuracy that there will be no argument after my presentation. That's why I'm taking my time and I'm reading a lot today. The book of Daniel and the book of Revelation may seem strange to us because these are the only two apocalyptic texts that we are familiar with. Most apocalypses were written in the name of famous persons from the past. It means that the writers themselves were not these famous people from the past, but they were writing works about these famous people from the past. We have the apocalypse that are attributed to Moses, and they would call it the apocalypse of Moses. The list goes on from Adam and Eve. We have the apocalypse of Adam and Eve, Enoch, Abraham, Elijah, who was taken up to the heavens without dying. By claiming to be one of these famous men of God in the past, the authors of these books would ascribe unusual authority to their work. I mean, think about it. If there's an apocalypse about Elijah, and Elijah, who didn't die, has gone into the dimension and seen things and is writing things and has brought things down, who are you to challenge? Who are you? Or Enoch, who walked righteously with God, is writing and has seen visions. And that was my personal argument those days. I'm like, listen, wait a minute. The book of Enoch should be true and must be true, because Enoch, according to Genesis, walked righteously for so many years. So of course, he would have revelations. So this was my argument, because the writer of the book of Enoch pitched himself to be, or claimed himself to be, the famous person called Enoch in the book of Genesis. Hence, even we have apocalypse of Adam and Eve. Who are you to challenge? They were the first people on earth. Who are you to challenge? So the writers would make sure they assume themselves to be old, famous, biblical patriots who carries so much authority and hence would guarantee automatic recognition to their work. Sometimes the synonymous authorship works in an even more interesting way, especially in the apocalypses that gives a detailed description of the course of history. You will understand it in a bit. How this works is that an author living in a particular time pretends that he's an author living in centuries earlier, then goes ahead to predict the course of events. Of course, when the author is actually writing this event has already happened. So this author goes all the way back and starts writing about events that are historic, that are already written. Writes these events as if he was in that time and was writing things to come. But actually, he is in this time. Let me set an example of this writing journal. Let's pretend I write a book now, right? And when they ask me my name, or when they ask the authorship of this book, I write Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler. Then I say, I Adolf Hitler, or most of them don't even mention their names. Adolf Hitler, I have seen in a vision that the reason why I have to kill the people that I'm killing is because in the near future, these people, I have seen in a vision, these people are going to create a crazy pandemic that would put the entire world to disarray. Hence, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just writing an example because Adolf Hitler is a famous person in history. For example, recent times, something like this happened. When the statement of Adolf Hitler came out saying that the real Jews are not these people, but the real Jews are the black people. When you read things like that, it makes you look at, wait a minute, Adolf Hitler was prophesying. So now, should we call Adolf Hitler a prophet? Because according to the statement of Adolf Hitler, he says what? The real people, the real Jews, are the black people. And the time they recognize that they are the real Jews will be the Third World War. So when these things happen, hence the reason why we're seeing all these riots going on and all what have you, should we call Adolf Hitler a prophet? So this was a writing style in those eras, where the writers would all the way take their lives like 4 centuries earlier to their time and write the things that was happening 4 centuries ago pertaining to be futuristic. Meanwhile, they are already in the future writing about the past. Does it make sense? So these authors pretend that he's an author living in centuries earlier, then goes ahead to predict the course of events. Of course, when the author is actually writing these things, these are events that have actually transpired or happened already. So he's not making prediction. He's writing things that have already happened. The predictions then continues up to his own day, which is projected as being very near to the end, and then comes a prediction about what would happen next. You understand? So when they are writing about their own day, it will look futuristic. You understand? Because if I am dating my work to 400 years ago, when you are reading my work now, you would think that 400 years ago, I was predicting. Imagine I write a book and I titled it so and so 400 years ago. In the near future, there will be coronavirus pandemic blowing up the whole place. So when you read the book, you say, check the dates, check the date. This was a prophet. He was telling us things to come. This was the writing style of the apocalyptic literature. This reader, of course, doesn't realize that the author himself is writing about history. It sounds like the author is making prediction from the very beginning, so that the things that have not yet happened in the reader's experience just as much of likelihood of happening as of things that were being predicted. Let me read that again. It sounds like the author is making prediction from the very beginning, so that the things that have not yet happened in the reader's experience have just as much of likelihood of happening as of the things that were being predicted. So we read these books, and these books makes us feel like, oh, see, when the writer was writing these books, the things he was writing in that timeline hadn't happened yet. So without a doubt, these things are things that are going to happen in the future. So the reader looks at these predictions and think, this is talking about us. This is talking about our time. See all the things that are happening. This is our generation. Forgetting that whatever you think is happening in your time, much more similar event took place in the time of the writer. In other words, pseudonymous authorship. Now, pseudonymous literature simply means that it gives you the ability to write anything and put somebody's name there. So pseudonymous authorship allows for the author to predict what is going to happen in his own future, and it sounds he's been making prediction all along, so that provides some validity of what he said already. What I'm trying to say is that, so this author would pick up somebody, a famous person's name. You understand? Because that's what a pseudonymous writer is. It gives you the license to pick somebody famous's name, so that when you are using this name, it will make you feel like this writing style or this book or this document carries authority, because this person that is talking about these things was this figure in history. You get it? An example of this synonymous authorship is probably what was going on in the book of Daniel, which Daniel, who allegedly is of a 6th century Jew living in Babylonian exile, who predict what's going to happen in the future, all the way up to the middle 2nd century BC. And they were very accurate, especially as you get closer to the Middle Ages of the 2nd century BCE and what's going to happen next. The trick, though, is that this book was probably written in the 2nd century, but the author is putting himself to the 6th century, so that the earlier prediction are actually things that had already happened and still happening. But because this author, who is an author in the 2nd century, is pitching himself to be in the 6th century, the work looks like it is prophesying, because probably in the 6th century, the things he's writing about hadn't happened yet. But in the 2nd century, these things had already happened. Do you get the writing skills? So let me show you a recent event that will give you a clear picture of how synonymous authors or writers do their work. Let's go to Revelations 2. Let me show you something. Revelations 2 talk about what? I know 2:9. I know thy works and the tribulations and poverty, but thou art rich. I know the blaspheming of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So when you read this, I know a lot of people in the Hebrew Israelites goes off and say the Ashkenazi Jews, they are the ones sitting in the synagogue of Satan. No. This work wasn't any futuristic work. This work wasn't telling any future prophecy. This work was not talking about the Ashkenazi Jews. This work was talking about the Roman invasion in Jerusalem in 70 AD. You understand? So when the Romans invaded the hell, people don't know. Listen, people just don't know. People just don't know the hell the Romans gave the Jews who were living in Jerusalem in 70 AD. It was horrible. Right? So the writer is now telling a story of telling a history. But you never read Revelations and think this is history. So everybody read Revelations 2:9 and say, oh, you wicked synagogue, those who sit in the synagogue of Satan. But the synagogue of Satan was when the Romans had captured Jerusalem and the Romans were sitting in Jerusalem. So they said, these people act like Jews. They pretend they're Jews, but they are of the devil. Why are they calling them of the devil? Because by this time, the Greek literature and the Greek mythology has dominated the entire place. So the idea of the devil was in existence. So therefore, if the Romans are acting this way, then supposedly these Romans are doing the works of the devil. So therefore, they are the synagogue of Satan. So the writer who writes this book in about 167 CE, Common Era, is writing about history. This is not futuristic. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. I know the blaspheming of them which say they are Jews. So the scribes and Pharisees, I know the works. Those, listen, this is synonymous authorship, where the author projects themselves back. Meanwhile, they are in the present of the time of happening, if not even the future of the time of happening. The same account is 3:9. Revelation 3:9, it says what? Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, to know that I have loved thee. So this was a work to give hope to the Jews at the time when they were reading this, that you know what, these people that I come to capture and take over your city, I am going to go, because they couldn't believe, they just couldn't understand. If they are the children of God, if they are the chosen of God, how on earth are they suffering this way? So this author sort of gives hope to these people by quoting this, that you know what, I would make these people who worship in the synagogue, who are what? The synagogue of Satan, who are the servant of Satan, come and worship you at your feet. This is human work. This is a skillful writing. This is no revelation. I've already done a subject of Satan. Mind you, nobody in history really know who this John is. The name John was common in antiquity. This John does not call himself John, the son of Zebedee, Jesus' own disciple, because at one point of his visions, it looked like he was having a vision of the 12 disciples and gives no indication that he is seeing himself to be one of the 12 disciples. Let's go to Revelation 21. Revelation 21. Verses 12. It says what? And he had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels. See, this is a lie. This is coming from our spirituality, which signifies the 12 disciples of Amin Ra. This is, come on. I've spoken about these things. Sunday I'll teach an interesting subject. No, Sunday I'll out on Zoom. Anyway, this teaching is going to be on Zoom. The seven sons of the Creator, or the seven spirits of God. Seven gates, and the following week I will teach about the 12 disciples, which we call the 12 tribes. People, they lied and copied. They say the 12 tribes. I'll teach that on Sunday on the Zoom. And at the gate 12 angels and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. This is fake, right? But again, when you are reading the Revelations, you think this is something futuristic. On the east, 3 gates, on the north, 3 gates, on the south, 3 gates, and on the west, 3 gates. I keep teaching you that the days of the week, or is it on the prayer page? But I know I keep teaching our family that the days of the week are the gates that allow us to come into this dimension. So every gate is responsible for your life. That's what I'm saying. Sunday, I'm going to teach on the Zoom these 7 gates or 7 spirits of the Creator, which are Esi, Ajo, Abene, Auku, Yao, Efi, Amen. I'm going to teach all that they do. Sunday, you don't want to miss the Zoom meeting. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the 12 names of the apostles of the Lamb. So he's saying, he should say on our names, our 12 names, right? But he didn't include himself to be part of the 12 disciples. So he's seen a revelation of the 12 disciples, and he himself is not part of the 12 disciples. So this is a giveaway that this writer is definitely not the John, but he's not. That's a synonymous authorship. You pick a popular person and you attach yourself to the popular person. So when everybody is reading your work, they will think this work is coming from the popular person. Do you understand? At this point, all those living in these times believe without a doubt that they were in the end times, but God will soon intervene. He is right around the corner. This appeared to be what many Jews taught around that era. This is what the people who produced the Dead Sea Scrolls believed in, and it's what Jesus appeared to also have believed in Matthew 24. You all know the story of Matthew 24, right? You don't, I mean, you know it. You don't want me to be the one reading for you. You know it. And this was happening because this was happening in that time. Jesus was constantly assuring and telling this Jesus, historic figure. Not that I believe in it. I'm only using this as a tool to teach you something. Jesus at that time was constantly teaching his people about the crazy times they were living in, because to them it was better for them to die than to continue be around the leadership or the rulership of this Roman Empire. So let's go to Mark 9. I believe Mark 9. Mark 9, let me show you something. Mark 9:1 says what? And he said unto them, verily I say to you, that there be some of them that stand here which shall not taste death till they have seen the kingdom of God come with power. Some of you standing right here will not taste death. So you understand how apocalyptic works function, because Jesus at that time was supposed to be telling a prophetic word that some of them standing there will not die, meaning the end, according to Jesus' own mouth, was coming very soon at that time. You understand what I'm saying? Was coming very soon, was coming at that particular time. So he says, well, some of you will not see death. Let's look at Mark 13:28. 13:28. It says what? Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When her branches is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know the summer is near. So ye in like manner, when ye see all these signs come to pass, now that it is nigh, when you see all these signs come to pass, know that it is nigh, even at the door. Very, very, I say to you, that this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word. Jesus dared himself and said, my word will never pass away. Mind you, I'm telling you, without a doubt, I am seeing my word come to pass. Very good, I say unto you, the kingdom is now. The kingdom is now. And some of you standing here right now will not see that. Very, I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things that I, Jesus, am telling you will come to pass. Well, that generation came to pass. They didn't see it. The next generation, 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 they didn't see it. Generations have come after and they still haven't seen it. And generations will still come after us. And this is the concept, this is the ideology, this is the prison that most of us have found ourselves in. And this is what evangelical preachers have capitalized on and running around the whole place, always claiming, looking at the surroundings and saying that the end is now. Watch this. What do you think the people of the First World War were thinking about when the war was going on? You think they didn't think it was the end time? What do you think the people during the Second World War was feeling or were going through when that happened? You think they didn't think it was the end time? What do you think when Hitler was killing all the Jews, you think they didn't think it was the end time? Every time there's a great disaster happening on the face of the earth, the people of the era would always come out and say this is the end. Just like this coronavirus happening now, and everybody running around like fools saying that this is the end time, this is the end is here. Please, you would die a useless death and not have any value for your life if you don't wake up to the lies that they perpetrated through our generations and come to the truth is that your end comes when you die. Listen, these evangelical preachers have made millions and billions of dollars of these lies. All of them predicted the end is now. Don't you hear them when they preach? The end is near, the end is near. From Billy Graham, Kathleen Coleman, all these people, they've been saying it. We're still here. Because that was the writing style of the day. They've made billions of dollars. When you go to Christian shelves, you see all these apocalyptic works, books written, making money off your ignorance. When are you going to wake up? Your end comes when you die. And you would be judged with what you did on the face of this earth. Anyway, my time is up. Let me let you go. I'll come your way same time tomorrow with a part 2 of this. I know tomorrow is a Health Wednesday. I'll see what I can do, but I need to finish this. Every time we come up with a hot topic, we know we got to do hearts. Hearts. Every time I come up with a hot topic, we know what we do. I have to finish it up before I continue anything else. So tomorrow, I come your way with a part 2 of this very thing. Stay blessed. I love you guys. Mwah. Part 2 tomorrow. I didn't go. Part 2. Please make sure you subscribe. If you haven't hit the subscription button, make sure you like the page. Our Zoom communities link is in the description. Our WhatsApp page, our WhatsApp community is for the Zoom meetings, our family meetings. It's link. The description is linked. It's in the link is in the description. What am I saying? The link is in the description. Please click on it and be a part of this amazing and wonderful things that are happening that we are learning every day. And also, if you want to send me questions or whatever, my WhatsApp number is there. That is my personal number. That's my WhatsApp number. You can send me a WhatsApp or you can send me an email and I'll get to you as soon as possible. WhatsApp is faster, I must say. Emails, WhatsApp, I'm always on there because we have the prayer page on it to which we pray every day. Stay blessed. I love you guys. I'll see you same time tomorrow with a part 2 of Revelations.